Good evening, Des Moines, Iowa. Welcome to the Doc and Lefty program here on webcast1live.com. Coming to you from the beautiful webcast1live.com studios in downtown Des Moines. I am Lefty, and guess what? It's the return of the Mac. The doctor is in. Pat Petrosh, my partner in crime. How you doing? Back in the studio.
I am doing well, and I have heard that Steve King continually is getting himself into trouble with his immigration.
We're gonna jump. We're gonna jump right. I was gonna ask you a few questions about how your vacation was.
Oh, well, my vacation was great. You know, Lefty and I talk all the time outside the show, and we were just kind of sort of arguing about methane here, about what's good, what's bad, because that's where I was. I was in Gillette, Wyoming, visiting my cousin Tisha up there, and it sits in kind of a bowl. It's like it's mountains all the way around, and it just kind of sits in this bowl. And so it was really neat, but it was very dry. And it's a nice little town. You're an hour from just about anything. So it's a really cool place to hang out. And I want to thank Tisha for putting me up and treating me well while I was up there. But anyway, we got to talking up there. A bunch of ranchers are upset because they use methane, or used to use methane, to help heat their homes and do a bunch of other things, energy-wise with it, until the EPA shut it down. So that's what I was actually looking up on Nat Geo, because these people in Wyoming says, geez, it's a good alternative source to burn. Doesn't really affect the environment after you burn it the way, coal or oil would, because it's much more natural. But Lefty pointed out, well, methane really does heat up the atmosphere, which is what National Geographic was saying. So anyway, that was what I was looking up.
Yeah.
And so, but I still hear that Steve King is getting himself into trouble.
I gotta say, I've got a lot of regional, I don't know what you'd even call it. Steve King is obviously the 4th district representative from the great state of Iowa, the state from which we're broadcasting, and the 4th district is 39 of the 99 counties of Iowa in the northwest and north central area of the state. He's got he's got the entire northwest quadrant where I'm from, and then down as far south as Ames, and that's where the cutoff is. Then Tom Latham takes over for the south central, southwestern-ish area, and on that side of the those sort of like that little central block. I'm trying to say it's hard to get getting words out on a Tuesday, Doc, is a little bit difficult.
Oh, I know, especially when the weather's so nice. We got the fair in town.
Yes, it's tough,
and you can only eat so much fried butter.
And that's true, but I'm also a little distracted with outrage over the vandalism of the butter cow. I think that's
absolutely done by a left-wing loony leftist.
Okay.
You know it was.
Well, it was some animal.
Defend that. Why don't you?
Some animal rights group, and obviously, you can agree with the message and disagree with the tactics. That's what you've been saying about bombing abortion clinics for all these years.
The butter cow. It was
it's a pretty. That's kind of like, to me, that's sort of like trying to, I don't know, protest ecological destruction from lawns by blowing dandelion dust in somebody's face.
Yes,
it's just the stupidest thing. But anyway,
it was awful, because the people, the animal that they should have focused on are the pigs. I mean, if you go over there and you watch those pigs, they just lay there. They're not allowed to move.
Yeah, it's a pretty tough situation. We can get into all that stuff and talk about some fair things later on the show. But Steve King is from the 4th district.
Speaking of fair things,
yes,
Steve King's very fair.
I called the 4th district home for a long time. I think when was he elected? 2002 for the first time.
I think it was 2000. I think it was 2006.
No, not in 06. Maybe 04.
08, all right, 04.
Around that time.
Somewhere.
Anyway, I had moved away from the 4th district, so I can't really claim him, and I don't think that. And I was already living in Iowa City by the time I was first eligible to vote. So I voted over in I think that's the 2nd district over there, where Iowa City is, and so I really can't lay any sort of claim to Steve King, but I've got a lot of regional recognition of Steve King. And I got to tell you, every time that guy opens his mouth between the Missouri and the Mississippi, he sounds like a statesman. He sounds like a guy who's reasonably attuned to the issues of his district, who's reasonably attuned to things affecting the state as a whole. And if that Steve King had decided to run against Bruce Braley in the Senate election, even though it wouldn't have been much of a contest given his other national stuff, which we'll get to, it would have been interesting because that Steve King who appears on Iowa programming is a very reasonable, thoughtful person and has a lot of smart insight about that I happen to disagree with a lot, but at least smart insight into the issues. National Steve King, though, boy, oh boy, I used to make a comparison to myself. There was daytime Blake and there was nighttime Blake, and nighttime Blake spent all of daytime Blake's money and didn't care when daytime Blake had a job and just kind of ran wild and did his own thing, and daytime Blake was constantly left picking up the pieces. I feel like that's what in-state Steve King has to do with out-of-state Steve King's reputation. Doc, I mean, what do you have to say about all this?
Well, the truth of the matter is when you're in the national spotlight, you really do have to pick and choose your words carefully. And you really aren't allowed to use alliteration. You're really not allowed to use similes and things like that because the national media, right or left, will pick it apart, not take it for what you're trying to mean it for. Now, he did say what he said was for every illegal immigrant valedictorian, there are 100, short brown fellows with big calves hauling 75 pounds of dope, something along those lines. Well, now I agree with the sentiment that for every great, illegal immigrant that is here, there are 4 more bad illegal immigrants. All right. I personally believe that. The problem is I can't prove it. There's no studies. We're supposed to have 11 million illegal aliens here in the U.S. or 12 or however many they are. We can't find them. We can't track them. We don't know. These are just estimates. So the bottom line is he could have said differently, listen, for every good illegal immigrant that's here, there are many more bad illegal immigrants. And we need to figure out who's who and figure out, how to process this so that these people can get a fair shake. We want to keep the good ones. We want to keep the ones that are working, supporting their families, paying taxes and the rest of it. But the fact of the matter is I believe that Steve King, at least in spirit, is right. Now, having done something dumb like this before, personally, I understand where he's coming from. However, I do believe that there's a different way to be able to say this that doesn't alienate the people you need to pass reasonable immigration reform.
Well, I feel like the sentiment, and what's so kind of interesting to see him twist on this, because I'm sure he was twisting. He's not. I watched him on Meet the Press on Sunday, and the Hispanic, the Latina analyst from the Republican Party, that I can't remember her name, and I'm sorry about that. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. She was on the round table and just kind of laid into him after he got done talking to David Gregory. And the thing is, the quote kind of speaks for itself, and what he was trying to, his explanation is, well, if you look at the actual numbers, 1 out of 100, I wasn't exaggerating. That's actually the right number. And if you think about, and he was so condescending enough to talk about the language, and I'll get into his response to that here right after this break. Right.
Well, we're going to be right back after the break. You're listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com. We are here every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m., me, Lefty, and our ever faithful Frank. We'll be back right after the break.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Lefty, and you're listening to the Doc and Lefty program every Tuesday, and particularly since it is Tuesday, we're talking about illegal immigration. We're talking specifically about our own much beloved, much maligned, and deservedly so, Stephen R. King Jr. Esquire. I don't know if that's his real given name, but Congressman Steve King.
You don't know if Stephen R. King
No,
Jr.?
I made that up. But Steve King is from the 4th District here in Iowa, and
Imagine a lefty making stuff up.
He's been the champion of all things hateful and bigoted for for a long time.
That's not unfair. That's completely unfair.
Well, I thought that I would get a rise out of it because we got get a little jump start. I was driving all day. I was in Cedar Rapids this morning, and so I'm going to try to stir things up a little bit. But no, Steve King is famous at this point. He's nationally famous, and really the only time he gets any sort of air or press at all on the national stage is when he says these kinds of inflammatory things about illegal immigration. Now, his defense of the hauling 100 pounds of dope, marijuana across the desert comment was that if you actually take literally, he meant literally, not just as a figure of, there's some good ones, but there are a lot more bad ones. I mean literally, if you take one valedictorian, because there aren't very many valedictorians, and there are a lot more illegal immigrants than there are illegal immigrants who are not valedictorians, because in the population and as a whole, there are very few valedictorians. You start explaining it that way, and it's just, we know what you meant, Steve. We know that in your mind, you think that there are more people who come to this country illegally who commit crimes than who come to this country illegally who are law-abiding citizens in other respects of their life. And I guess if you think that people who come to this country without getting proper documentation have committed some sort of crime against the country, then they're all lawbreakers and they all need to go to prison.
Well, by very definition, they're lawbreakers. If they're here illegally, they have broken the law. I mean, it's that simple. Now, the problem is, we talked a little bit at the break. I think we both agree nobody knows how many there are. There's not a way to track if they're breaking the law on a regular basis. There's no crime statistics about illegal immigrants. We really don't know how many there are in here in the United States. The loony left tries to make it into strictly a Brown issue, but it isn't. We've talked about that 100 times before. So I think trying to quantify it through a number is silly, and trying to justify it through a number is silly.
What did you think about his bird dog comment?
You have to remind me. I remember the comment, but you have to.
Was saying that if you want the best bird dog, that you go and you get the one that's youngest and hungriest and is willing to work and all this different stuff. He's talking about how America is in a unique position to handpick the best immigrants. And so we want to be able to do that and sort of sift out the riffraff. And the issue that a Hispanic media personality took with that is, and tried to ask him, are you comparing illegal immigrants to dogs? And he wouldn't answer. He kept saying, I was complimenting people. Well, listen, hey, Doc, it's nice to see you. I think that you're a really hardworking guy. And in fact, I think you're the most hardworking guy that I know. And you'd say, thank you, Lefty. What a nice compliment. Hey, Doc, you know what? If you were a bird dog, man, you'd be the hardest working dog that I'd ever seen in my entire life. And man, if I could just.
And you know what? Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm a hardworking dog.
Yeah, I bet.
Well, the bottom line is people in America anymore are working really hard to be offended by everything. And when I made my statement, I never compared once illegal immigrants to dogs ever. I made that clear. And the bottom line is nobody will let that go. When I was up in Gillette, I was talking to a guy. He told me, he goes, "You'd make a great wheel dog." I knew what he meant. Yeah, I didn't take offense at it. Yeah, great, thanks. Yeah, I know I do. I'm a great wheel dog. A wheel dog is on a sled team. Dog on a sled team. Lefty's giving me the glassy-eyed stare, like, what are you? So I understand that, Steve King gets into the paper sometimes, by utilizing this tactic. I think to me it's a tactic he uses. I don't think
it's definitely deliberate.
Yeah, I don't think he's off the cuff enough. I think he's a very astute and careful politician, but I think he's astute enough not to just let it go without having bring purpose.
Well, here's my question to you then. Let's talk. Then he's an astute politician. Let's talk about the larger political ramifications of this. Steve King is now isolated. Steve King, for years and years, throughout his entire political career, has been able to get away with saying things like this on immigration, on all other red meat issues, abortion and all kinds of things. He's been able to say offensive things throughout his entire career, and has never once before today been as ostracized by his own party as he is. And my question to you, as someone who follows Republican politics, is: are the sort of establishment, the Beltway Republicans who are starting to move on the Senate bill, even in the House, they're starting to kind of come around to the Senate bill and for immigration reform on this issue? Are they looking and seeing the forest for the trees?
Well, I'm going to tell you, it goes right back to what we've talked about several times, and that is, I don't think the Republicans actually understand what the electorate is doing now, and I think they're trying to pander to the strongest base that the Democrats have that they think they can take, and that is the Hispanic vote. I'm going to I've told Republican operatives this before now. It's too late. You're going to have to recruit them in some other way besides simply pandering to, blanket amnesty for everybody. Because what happens is those that have gone through the process of gaining American citizenship legally and being here legally are being alienated by the very people that they want to vote for them. Mm-hmm. If you say, we're going to take this very conservative block of voters that agree with us, 80 to 90% of the time, that's Hispanic voters. And now we're going to suddenly say, we're going to throw away that process that you had to go through, and we're going to give it to these other people that are here illegally. That alienates that conservative voting bloc among the Hispanics. Now, for the most part, the Hispanics I've talked to and worked with on a regular basis, they're conservative anyway. They agree at least 70% of the time with the Republican Party. The one thing they disagree with is immigration. But I can tell you, even the illegal immigrants that I've worked with that are here, even they don't want just blanket amnesty. They just want the system to be different. They want it to be more accessible. When you limit the visa to $5,000 a year,
it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. It is completely unfair.
Well, and not just you.
And I'm going to, and amnesty is something else. Now we got to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about amnesty in the bill, in the Senate bill. We want to, speaking of Republicans, Polk County GOP is having their Republican picnic here September 7th.
I knew they had something coming up.
They had something coming up.
I pitched it last week, but I didn't know any of the details, so I just said, check out the Polk County GOP. Well,
they're going to have a ton of people, including Steve King.
Oh, good.
Ted Cruz, I think Marco Rubio is coming. And you want to talk about somebody who's getting ostracized from the conservative wing of the Republican Party. Rubio he's dead in the water as far as 2016 for his support of amnesty. So anyway, they're going to be having a picnic here in September 7th. I think it's going to be over at the fairgrounds. It's polkgop.com if you want to look it up on the internet. The telephone number is 280-6438. And then I want to bust over here to Frank for a second. Do we have a call, Frank, or was that just, a solicitor again? Just a solicitor.
Yeah, we get those from time to time. It was probably Steve King looking for some money.
And I'd give it to him.
What I was going to say, what's interesting to me about your comment about the conservatism of Hispanic voters, other than the fact that a lot of national polls kind of cut against that. They don't paint them with the sort of the classic liberal brush that sort of have always been painted on, like union workers and other, and like middle class women, for example. It's not that necessarily, but they want the system to work. And you would think, and because their main issue is, look, it's hard to get here. It's really, really hard. It's difficult. It's expensive. There are all kinds of, and there are a couple here in Des Moines. I won't name any names, but there are a couple of immigration attorneys in Des Moines who've gotten in huge trouble just recently for abuses of the process and for not understanding the complexities of immigration law, which that second, the first part is reprehensible. The second part is almost understandable given how complicated it is. I know that I've been approached twice by folks looking for assistance with immigration issues, and I've turned them away because I have no idea what I'd be doing at all. And I've looked up the statutes and they're really difficult to deal with. So that needs to be simplified. But what these folks are saying is, look, this thing busts up families.
Absolutely.
You have situations where, we can only afford to send the oldest brother or the youngest daughter or mom or dad or like one member of the family. We can afford to send them and afford to do their visa application and get them a job and get them established so that they can help bring the rest of us in, because that's these people who go about it legally are oftentimes advised to do is send one person who can establish residence. It makes it easier. That's not always the case. And so you have the time and the expense it takes for that one person to get there. That family is now separated and torn apart for decades. There was one family from the Philippines that I heard about in the news, and this is an anecdotal thing, so I'm not trying to say this is the trend or this is a statistical fact here or anything, but there's a story about a Filipino family who'd sent the brother, and mom and dad were still in the Philippines, and 25 years later he finally got everybody approved and dad died, and it just had passed away before he was able to get there and be reunited with the family. And it's that kind of stuff that folks on the Hispanic folks say, look, if you're the party of the family, if you're the pro-family party, why don't you understand through your rhetoric that this is hurting us more than anything else? And I feel like that's the biggest opportunity the Republicans have missed.
Well, and I hate it when I have to agree with the lefty, but Lefty's right. This is a family issue. Why aren't the Republicans hammering at this? Why hasn't it taken getting trounced twice by Barack Obama? I mean, smashed into the ground before they finally went, hey, maybe we got to do something different.
You got to think to yourself, hey, Hispanic voting bloc, I'm going to be really general, and I apologize. I don't mean to offend anybody because this is just a broad sort of brush. But
he only means to offend Republicans.
Right. I'm the Republican pollster. I say, hey, Hispanics, that we're the party of anti-abortion. And the Hispanics say, well, yeah, a lot of us are Catholic and we don't believe in abortion. We're not going to do it anyway. What about getting my uncle here from Guatemala? Because that's what I care about. And to me, that simple story has just blown the Republicans out of the water. And if I'm looking at it, and the only thing that I can think is that portions of the Republican Party have been hijacked by these nationalist, race-baiting folks who are afraid of a non-white America. And I'm not saying the Republican Party is racist at all. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that portions of the Republican demographic have been hijacked by these folks, like the guy who just got fired by Rand Paul because he was this white supremacist, white power guy. Certain portions of folks in Texas and Idaho. You wonder how such a small portion of the Republican Party can wield such a big influence or scare so many people. I don't know. Maybe
it's the same. Well, I'm just going to hit right back at the Democrats. You guys have your race baiters too. Van Jones comes to mind. Al Sharpton comes to mind. You want to talk about?
Neither of those guys have any effect on policy, though.
Oh yeah, they do. If you're whistling Dixie, if you don't, for crying out loud, Van Jones is part of
Yeah, but he's gone. He hasn't been around for 6 years.
Yeah, I know, but there's.
And I'm talking about recent. I'm talking about recent people that just got let go because they were writing things and helping people and organizing votes.
But all that stuff happens in the Obama administration. Happens among Democrats. It's a dirty business politics, and you have to, I have a friend, Pat Van Zandt, and she's an ultra liberal too, and she has a saying: if you lie down with dogs, you're going to get fleas, and that's just the nature of politics. Now, I don't believe in racism. I don't believe that you should not give a job to somebody based upon anything outside of the fact of can they get the job done effectively. I am bottom line kind of guy. But part of what's going on with the Republican Party is that they did get stomped. They're not seeing the demographic for what it is. They're mistaken. What's his face? Karl Rove. He blew that one. Dick Morris, who I've met several times and like quite a bit.
Dick Morris is more wrong than Karl Rove.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I last time I talked to Dick Morris and I told him he was wrong, I got such a haughty response. I'm like, listen, you're wrong. Next day, hey, I was wrong. Well, there you go. Dick Morris was wrong. They're not reading what's in there.
Well, here's my question to you then. So does that mean then that the Republican Party would be better served by folks who are adjusting to the different needs of a particular voting block, or these folks that say principle, principle, principle? Because Steve King comes back every single time and says, hey, look, mainstream Republican Party, and this works great for his base, and he'll get reelected 40 more times from Northwest Iowa and never have a major piece of legislation to show for it and just be a career politician his entire life. And if that's what he wants to do, that's fine. But he also has this seeming desire to have a national profile. And so when he comes out and he says things like it's principle, 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 does that sort of megaphone that he has do a disservice to the Republican Party, number one, and to the electorate as a whole, because he's trying to bog down a process that everybody agrees needs to be fixed?
Well, yeah, but now you're talking about, and I think Steve King agrees it needs to be fixed. But the problem is, like you said, he's kind of being ostracized at this point. And two, he hasn't come up with his own bill. Not that I know of. So he has to get his own bill out there to move it forward. And two, you have the leadership that we've already talked about is not reading the demographics correctly, simply pandering outright to illegal immigrants, trying to steal what the Democrats think that they're going to get. And the problem is Reagan already did this. And it didn't work. It failed miserably. And what they really need to do, because if you talk to illegal immigrants, they understand they broke the law. They don't have a problem paying a penalty for it if they get to stay.
Exactly.
They want their family. So if you sit there and say, well, listen, we're not going to give you a path to citizenship, but we're going to let you stay. You're going to have to pay more taxes, and that's your punishment. I think that's something that's going to move ahead much more bipartisan than a simple pandering to the illegal immigrants. The one thing did you understand what I said?
I do, but I don't. Maybe we can talk about the specifics of that proposal in the next segment, because I don't know that necessarily making a discrete block of people or discrete group of people who have a lot of different things in common with each other, making them pay more taxes because of whatever status. That might not be. Well, I understand where you're coming from.
We'll talk about eminent domain and drug seizures then after the break, along with this, because to me, that's all one big mishmash. We'll be back right after the break. Lefty and I look like we're going to be duking it out during the break. We should film this one. Stay tuned for our sponsors. We'll be back right after the break. Thanks for listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.
I'm administrative manager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, it's got to be, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
If you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is Doc and Lefty. Thanks for coming back for the second half hour of the show. We're talking a lot about illegal immigration. Doc and I have been itching to get at this topic for a while. It's just we've had other things to deal with, and there's a lot going on. And so we're kind of diving into it today a little bit. And Doc, before the break, proposed a plan where maybe folks who came here illegally or who are undocumented or whatever would pay a higher rate of taxes than other folks who didn't break this particular law. And I guess my response to that is I understand the sentiment behind it, and I think that the Senate bill has a pretty hefty fine as a penalty for breaking the law and coming here without the proper documentation, but I don't think an ongoing tax would necessarily pass constitutional muster. Now, I got to say, this is just sort of legal brainstorming right now. I'm not speaking with any kind of authority necessarily on this topic, but I wonder if maybe that that some sort of substantive due process or equal protection thing, and equal protection would be a stretch because criminals are not a protected class necessarily, or people that break the law, I should say, are not a protected class, except that folks that broke this particular law by coming to the country without the proper documentation would have an ethnic heritage that was, not from the United States originally. And so I think that you would run into sort of a discrimination argument if you were to levy a tax against immigrants who didn't follow the proper procedures when other criminals maybe who were born here, a murderer who gets out after 25 years doesn't pay a higher rate of tax than an illegal immigrant would. And I think that you'd have a problem with that Well,
then what would you suggest the penalty be? Or do you suggest that there should be a penalty?
Well, there is a penalty in the Senate bill. The monetary fine is pretty hefty. I don't have the exact dollar amount right in front of me, but there is a fine, and then the pathway to citizenship, that's the big bone of contention right now, it's long. It's 12, 13 years or something. I mean, it's a long process. And personally, without that sort of carrot of citizen, I mean, if you're honestly, let's see if we can agree on a couple of things before I break into this next part. Do you believe that this country should have a robust, open sort of immigration policy?
I don't think it should be an open policy.
Well, by open, I mean we allow people at all.
Well, yes, sure.
Okay, so we should be a country that allows and welcomes legal immigration.
Yes.
And we would agree that legal immigration enriches our society and provides us with younger workers and a more vibrant tax base.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Do you think then that folks would still come here if they didn't have the prospect of attaining citizenship? And what I mean by that is, do you think that the folks that are here illegally right now would say, you know what, there's really no hope of me ever becoming an American citizen. I don't want to sit here and work for forever. I don't want to work here indefinitely knowing that my money is going to a government that doesn't recognize me. So I'm going to pull up stakes and go someplace else. And if that's the goal, then that kind of cuts against the other stuff that we just agreed to, doesn't it?
Well, no, not really. This has been an issue ever since the 1900s. I remember in high school, politics class, government class, there was a cartoon by the guy that dreamed up Tammany Hall. You know, he did all those. It was the same cartoonist, and it was a big bugle type thing. And basically what we're talking about is either, you know, having the narrow end of the funnel with the elite, with the immigrants, and then everybody spilling out into the U.S. with no system in place, which is what I think Blake is kind of advocating, or turning it around and saying, we're just going to pick the cream of the crop. I don't think it's arrogance to say we have the best and the brightest, and we only want the best and the brightest here. I don't think that's arrogance. The second thing is people that are here illegally understand they're not going to become citizens. They're still here. You know, it does. If you give them citizenship or not, it's not going to change the fact that they want to come here. They don't go. They're not sitting at home at watching their family starve with no prospects. Go, I want to be a U.S. citizen. They say, I want to go where the jobs are. I want to go where I can make money and support my family, and that happens to be the United States. So I think, that's the answer to that question.
And I'm telling you that a lot of those folks are working on citizenship petitions, but can't navigate the system and don't dare come out of the shadows because of their undocumented status.
Well, let's go back. They're not undocumented. They are illegal. They're not here legally. You know, it's like saying, you know, Dave Funk, and you know how far down the road I got to go to be quoting Dave Funk. You know, it's like saying, geez, I'm an unlicensed pharmacist. Right? Mm-hmm. You know, that's a drug dealer. Or somebody who says, well, hey, you know, prescribing without a license. You know, you don't say, well, you know, he's just an undocumented physician. There are rules and regulations that you should follow.
Okay.
Now, I agree. The system that we have is horrible and dreamed up by Reagan and, in part, Grassley. Two people I admire and respect. So this is a problem that very smart men have tried to tackle the same way before, and all it's gotten is here. It's only gotten us here in the last 30 years. In other words, no change.
I committed petty theft the other day and stole a $50 shirt. Am I an illegal shopper?
Yes.
Am I an illegal person then?
You're a criminal. Yep. That's right.
Am I an illegal person? Are you going to go around and say, well, there goes Blake the illegal?
Well, hold on.
Because that's what happens. That's the whole.
Well, because
and we're
conflator.
Now I'm demonstrating.
That's exactly what I do, and you get on me about.
I'm demonstrating the devolution of the rhetoric. See,
but they're still people. They're still a person. They're just not here legally. They're an immigrant. That's how they're described. It doesn't change the fact that they're a person, right? This global citizenship stuff, I don't think is correct. I don't think that's a good way for us to go, because then anybody can move here to the U.S.
Then where do we live?
We live in the United States. Whether you like it or not, we do have borders.
So you're not a citizen of the world. So then when you go out across the borders to Ukraine and London and all the different places that you travel to, you shouldn't expect certain, you know, treatment and behavior and protections.
If I'm there illegally, that is correct. I will tell you that, well, on one of the mission trips I went to in South Africa, I sat next to a gal who worked in the Obama Justice, or for the Obama administration somehow. I can't remember if it was Justice Department or not. She thought she had all the visas. She flew all the way there to South Africa. They said, no, you don't have all the right visas. You're going to have to go back and get the right ones. Now, should South Africa let her in? She's a person of the world. She's a global citizen. Why didn't they let her in? See, that's the argument. You have to have border controls. You know, I mean, it's just common sense.
That once again, so we get down to another point where the Republicans and the conservatives keep throwing up. They don't throw up solutions. They keep throwing up problems. So you're talking about border controls. The Obama administration has done the most deporting of any president. They've done the strictest, tightest border out, even better than George W. Bush and your buddy Reagan.
Hold on, we have to take a break, which is unfortunate because I was really about ready to let into Lefty. Give him a break. We'll be back right after this message from our sponsors. They help us keep our lights on and help keep us arguing. You're listening to us on webcast1live.com every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m.
Petrosh & Associates, how can I help you?
Petrosh & Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Yeah, this carried over, but that's okay. So we're talking about this story that Doc made up about this mission trip that he took to South Africa.
It's not a story I made up.
This woman who doesn't
did fly all the way
exist.
there.
This woman who doesn't exist.
She does exist.
And what should South Africa do?
No, this is
right?
a true story. This is a true story. I was there with Amy.
What was she doing there?
It was some official government mission that she was there for, and she didn't have the correct visa, even though she had several visas. And the South African government made her sit there in the airport, even though she was able to stay in the hotel there. And she was flying back with us that night. She'd gotten there, I think, she got in there the previous day. So what should South Africa do? Should she let her in because, well, hey, we're all global citizens, even though it would have gone against she would have been an illegal citizen there? Or
South Africa should follow its law, but the idea.
There you go. So why shouldn't the United States? Hold on. Why shouldn't the United States then follow our laws?
The United States does follow its law. When people are caught, they're deported.
Hold on.
Pal.
The Obama administration just said, well, we're not going to be enforcing those laws much anymore. They've gone through and said we're not
pushing immigration reform. They unless you get a taser the size of Rhode Island up the behinds of the Republican Party, he can't get anything done. So hey, we're not going to do the stuff that you want us to do. So
in other words, if they have a different agenda that you're still not required to obey the law that's already there. That doesn't even make any sense.
You're talking about people who have been here for a long time, who have been contributing to the society, who have been waiting for some kind of reform that everybody agrees is needed.
They haven't been waiting for reform. They're here working. They're trying to send money back. They don't sit here and live the lavish lifestyle. They work. They send most of their money back, knowing at some point if they get grabbed, they go back. They don't come back. They have a good life down in Mexico. I'm just going to lay it right out there. I work with illegal immigrants every day, 4 or 5 times a day. None of these illegal immigrants that I work with.
Why don't you turn them in?
Because that's not my job. I have an ethical obligation to protect my patient. Just like if an illegal immigrant came into your office, you would have the legal right and ethical obligation to protect your client.
That's true.
And so I am in a catch-22. I talked about this on the campaign trail. I hate this catch-22. But the bottom line is none of these people that are here, hold on, let me go back and re-clarify this. I work with children and I work with adults. I'm strictly talking about the adults that have come here illegally, not the children that were brought here illegally. So these adults have no concern about becoming a U.S. citizen. They're going to work till they get caught and they get sent back. Now, the problem with that, it's not a good attitude for the family, right? It's not a good attitude for America. We want good, hard workers. We want people that are smart and driven.
Right.
And the bottom line is you still have to follow the rules. You still have to follow the law. You still have to obey the penalties when they're handed down. And the penalty that we have in place right now is simple deportation. I'm going to go on record now, and I've done it before. I do not agree with just that as a penalty. There has to be other penalties involved so they can serve their time or whatever. I don't believe in jailing these people either. But they have to be able to serve their time, make up to society the law that they broke, and then be able to move on. I don't think that there should be a path to citizenship.
Why not?
Because you're rewarding these people with citizenship when they haven't earned it. Now, if you start out...
How do you earn citizenship?
Well, in my in my opinion, or man, what a gotcha question. That's a good one. But I'm going to say it straight out. One, you serve in the military. I don't think that anybody who served in the United States military, served our country, should ever be deported for any reason. All right. I believe that once you've served a 4 or 6 year stint in the military, you should become a citizen. You have that right. That's what I believe. And I believe, and that's one thing that this immigration bill doesn't have. All right. Which I think should be. Number two, I think that instead of tearing apart these families, there needs to be a tax penalty. Now, we talked a little bit during the break about maybe it might violate the 14th Amendment. You know what? There's a way around that. There's a way to say, hey, listen, if you want to be an American citizen, you can voluntarily sign to pay more of this, or you can be deported. Most of these people are going to pay more in tax. They don't mind. Right?
Yeah, I don't think that that solves the problem, because you're kind of giving them an unwinnable choice. But
if you can't do the crime, don't do the time.
But that's that once again. So military service is a way to earn citizenship. Paying more taxes is a way to earn citizenship, even though these people have been paying taxes this entire time.
Yeah, but they're not paying as much. They're not. Mm-hmm. There's been at least one study I have seen, especially, it was right after I got in trouble, that because the Republicans always claim, well, they don't pay any taxes, illegals, but that's not true. They pay taxes. They just pay 80% of the taxes of a comparable citizens pay. So they basically get a 20% discount. I think that should be reversed. I think they should pay 120% of taxes.
So what else? Because I haven't been in the military, but I was born here.
Well, and the 14th Amendment does allow us to say, hey, listen, if we're born here in the U.S., we're now citizens of the U.S. And that's a law that a lot of other countries have, creates a lot of confusion. So
that's just how it's been. I mean, that's how it's been since the 14th Amendment was written. So,
and then if you come in, you go through the process, and I'm not sure all the steps that the process is to become a citizen, but you have to go out, you have to take a test, you have to learn how to speak at least passable English and be able to read the test in English. I think that's the other way you become a citizen, but you still have to follow the process. Now, unfortunately, we're coming up right on another break. Things have settled down a little bit between Lefty and I, because Lefty's got his lawyer face on. So we'll be back right after the break. Oh, this one where I talk about Polk County. Well, folks, Polk County is having a picnic here on September 7th. There's going to be all kinds of the who's who of the Republican Party showing up at this picnic. And they're all going to be speaking to you, and they're going to want to be able to talk to you individually. I think Ted Cruz is showing up. Steve King's showing up. Senator Grassley is going to be there. I believe Tom Latham was also said he's going to show. So it's going to be the who's who of Iowa Republicans showing up to this. Governor Branstad and Kim Reynolds are going to be there. Lieutenant Governor Reynolds. You can give them a call at 280-6438, or you can get on the website polkgop.com and give them a call. If you want to sponsor tables, $250. And you get 10 tickets with that. And if you just want to show up and have fun, I think it's pretty much a goodwill donation. But anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be out at the fairgrounds.
So I'm a genius kid from I don't know what's a non-controversial country. From Liechtenstein. Say that I'm this genius engineer. I'm an engineering whiz kid from Liechtenstein.
Like in the Knight's Tale?
Yeah, sure.
He's Heath Ledger now.
I guess. I don't know. And I come to the United States to study engineering at MIT. And I have a student visa. And my student visa expires. And because I'm such a genius, I don't get it renewed. Or I can't get it renewed or whatever. But rather than voluntarily go to the airport and go home or report it or whatever, I stay. Okay. If I then pay tax, do all the things that you say, do all that kind of stuff you talked about, earning my way in, can I be a citizen of this country? Because that's what happens to a lot of people. There are a lot of people that jump the border fence. That's true. But there are a lot of people who come and overstay visas that were validly given to them in the first place. So visitor visas that expire. Yes. So because of my engineering talent and all the other things that I could benefit in the United States, should I be permitted to become a citizen of the country and enjoy all the protections that being a citizen of the United States offers me?
I think that it comes right back to you have to follow what the rules of the land are. And there is a process you can go through if you overstay your visa.
Right, but I don't. Happens. But I don't do it. I don't think about it. I don't do it. I don't want to do it.
Yeah, but even at that point, when they finally catch you, there's a way to be able to apply to have your visa reissued. There is a process for that, and that's part of the advantage of the system that we have now. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say we have a great system, but part of the system we have now is if you are in that situation, because that does occur, that there is a process you can go through for it. A lot of times what happens is the actual government officials that approve these visas don't get to them. They might get lost in the shuffle somewhere. And so there's a way you can get around that.
Okay, right? so say that I'm a genius engineering student from Argentina, and I travel up the coast and I get to the border and I just cross the border because I want to go to school at the University of Texas, but I didn't have a valid student visa. I just enrolled and forged some documents and I'm this great student.
Forger?
Yeah, I'm this great student and came in. Should I be deported, or should I then, after I come in illegally, as you put it, be able to earn my citizenship, as you also put it?
Because you came in illegally.
But so did the kid. The kid became illegal after he overstayed his visa.
But at least it showed an attempt to follow our rules and laws and regulations.
I see. You know? Now I'm starting to see what some of the distinctions are, because
what are your distinctions?
Following the same exact process.
Well, then I've been on a hot seat for a solid 21 minutes now. What's your solution to this?
My solution is, I think the Senate bill has a reasonable solution. You pay a penalty. You do whatever the fine is, the fine or whatever the criminal like sanction it happens to be is, and then if you want to do the sort of citizenship thing that they've set up, you can do that, or you can go home.
Well, but one of the sticking points of the Senate thing is the infamous blue card, which I will take credit for that because I happen to. Well, you weren't there when I was giving that speech.
No,
but it was I think it was a Rob Kelly dinner. I gave a speech, got up there, I handed out my immigration reform, talked about a blue card, give these people a blue card so they can be interviewed. Well, that's one of the main. That's another sticking point of the Senate bill is they don't want to give a blue card to these illegal immigrants. I think that I can tell you, if I show up in Ukraine and I don't have a visa, I'm winding up in jail, and I'm going to sit there and rot until some bureaucrat decides to come down and talk to me. Sometimes that's going to be several months. Sometimes that might be several years. The Russians are even worse. I think this Snowden guy is an idiot. I mean, to fly to Russia and ask for asylum there really is stupid, because they're not going to treat them very well at all. That's the thing about our country is we treat people and persons much better than most other countries do.
Right.
When it comes to this. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying you have to go through the process, and if you don't, you're going to be punished.
But that's what immigration reform has been. That's what they're trying to say. The idea, though,
but a path to citizenship shouldn't be one of those rewards.
But you just said you could earn your way to citizenship.
Not if you're an illegal immigrant. I just said I don't think that's part of what should be. We've already done that. We've already done amnesty under Reagan, and it didn't work. All it did is get us to this point here today. So the amnesty is not going to work. The only thing that's really going to work is to expand the visa pool and create a guest worker system. Because trust me, there's a lot of people from Mexico that come up seasonally for work. That's why we have cheap food.
And they have no interest in living here full year round.
Absolutely,
that should be.
That's not in the Senate bill.
No, but it's one of the things that sort of gets ignored. That a lot of Republican representatives from the border states say that needs to be worked on. But you get pushback from other folks in the Republican Party saying, no, because then we can't control the flow, and there's too many people, and then you can hide and all this other stuff. And it's just what I want to hear from the Republican Party is less, we can't do it because, and more, let's try this. And that's been the problem with them since Barack Obama got elected, is every time he says, hey, you know what? Let's expand healthcare coverage. No, we can't because of these 8 things. And I don't want to get into healthcare reform with you because we can do that on another show.
I don't think that there's 2 points I want to make about that. I don't believe it's an accurate statement to say that Republicans just went no. I think what happened is the Republicans said, well, we're willing to go along and listen. And then Barack Obama said, it's going to be my way or the highway. And then they started fighting back.
We both know that's not true.
We both know that George Bush took a lot of guff from the very beginning. We both know that. George Sr. got it. George Jr. got it. Reagan got it.
For immigration or for
anything. For anything. Whatever he wanted to do. Right? That's the nature of politics. The Republicans have said, listen, these are things we're willing to do. But Barack Obama is not showing a willingness to compromise. He's showing a willingness to pontificate.
Let's talk about,
and that's not part of this discussion. So let's leave it alone.
Well, I'm going to just completely just destroy that here because we only have a few minutes left. But George Bush got No Child Left Behind. He got Medicare Part D. He got the Iraq War. He got the Afghanistan War. He didn't pay for any of that stuff, and there was all bipartisan support for all that stuff. The first thing that he tried to do after he got reelected in 2004 that got any sort of pushback was immigration. Well, Social Security reform, but he knew that wasn't going anywhere to privatize Social Security, and then immigration, and it was the Republicans that blew up immigration. So George Bush had the Democrats pretty much in the palm of his hand for the first 4 years of his presidency. For the first 4 years.
True.
That is true.
How old were you? 4 when all that was going on? he gave me a different face than lawyer face. Let's go over some
education.
Now let's go over some statistics about immigration. 21 surprising facts from thefinancialtimes.com. 11 million illegal immigrants. 86, the percentage of illegals who have been living in the U.S. for 7 years or longer. 327,000 is the number of illegal immigrants apprehended by U.S. Border Patrol agents in 2011. The majority of whom were seeking employment in the U.S. See, that goes right back to we need to have a guest worker program. 80% is the estimated percentage who are from Mexico and Latin America. I'm going to disagree with that because I deal with a lot of Eastern Bloc people. The other thing about immigration reform, this is the perfect venue for human trafficking. And I deal with kids who've been trafficked all the time, right? This is terrible. And I think changing our immigration laws will help with that quite a bit. 9% is percentage from Asia, 11% from Europe, Canada, and Africa. 11.2 billion. That's the amount illegal immigrants paid in taxes in 2010. About half of all illegals pay some form of federal taxes. So that's pretty much in tune with regular America. Mm-hmm. All right. 4.2 billion is the amount the federal government paid in 2005 to individuals with children whose tax bills dip below zero. And that tax credit, the additional child tax credit, it apparently is heavily claimed by illegal immigrants, according to factcheck.org. 4.3 is the estimated cost taxpayer provided health care for uninsured illegal immigrants as of 2010. According to the Center for Immigration Studies, 48.6 is the estimated cost to taxpayers of covering 3.1 million amnestied immigrants during the budget period 2014 and 19. 2.6 trillion is to cover the apparently is what it's going to cost to get the other 10 million adults a pathway to citizenship, according to the Heritage Foundation.
Well,
40 billion. Well, hold on. All right.
The Heritage Foundation is not a source.
It is too. Because you don't like it doesn't mean it's not.
They're the ones that came up with the study that said Mexicans are dumber than white people.
All right.
So let's talk about.
Right. So what about the Center for Immigration Studies? All right, you're going to crap on them too?
I don't know them.
All right. So 1.5
they don't say racist things.
Added to the cumulative GDP over 10 years with a comprehensive immigration reform plan that includes legalization for all illegals currently living in the U.S., according to the Center for American Progress. 4.5 billion to 5.4 billion additional net tax revenue that would accrue. 23,000 is the current cost of apprehending, detaining, processing, and transporting one individual in deportation proceedings. So we can both agree that deportation is the way to go.
Is not the way to go?
Yeah, I don't think deportation is
the way to go. But
we have to quit. Oh my God!
Devolving into the numbers is always fun.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm going to give Lefty the last word.
Let him in. Give him a hug.
Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Good night, everyone.
To the Doc and Lefty. We'll see you all next week. Thanks a lot to Frank for helping us out here. We have a special guest, Larry Saylor, next week.
Oh, good.
So
Love you, buddy.
Yeah. Good night.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Representative Tom Shaw, and I love these guys. Both of them.
Love these guys. Get over here. Get over here. Love both of them.